Yo, what's up, man?
How you doing, man? Gold is playing, man. Let it,
Go.
let it,
Also,
let it.
US 30. This thing doesn't want to
Nah,
drop.
man. I told you I forgot about you.
But gold, we're in a daily bearish high right there. But that's his. But I want to see if this pattern. I mean, I've never traded a falling wedge before, but the only thing we have this daily bearish high here, and we don't have any sellers around here. That's the only thing. But anyway, we'll see. We'll see what happens. And we also have a death cross forming on the hourly.
Yeah.
I'm in this I'm in a US 30. This is the sell I'm in
Oh,
because
you understand?
yeah, based off of the 30-minute reversal. I entered yesterday right here.
Oh,
Let me see if I can pass this other account I had. Because we
but how,
just need
how much? Did you finally pass it? Like the main key account?
yeah, I did way back.
Nice.
Um this new code forex account. Let me see if I can find it. I just need $170. I don't even know what I'm doing with it. But let's see, code forex. Okay, trading is open with it, but see, anyway, I'll enter if I see a nice sell. The dashboard doesn't even work. Maybe they don't trade on Fridays. All right, start recording. Let's see. All right, good morning, guys. Today is Friday, July 21st. And as usual, we'll go over analysis for US 30, gold, and EU. The only trade I'm in is the US 30 reversal based off of the 30-minute time frame. So this, I did mention yesterday that that's the reversal I was looking for. Because even if you entered the reversal on the 15-minute time frame, this pump up to the upside would have stopped you out. And then you got the sell entry right here yesterday around 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So hopefully US 30 today does not do what it has done the last 2 days where it has just kept pumping up. So there's this, I was reviewing my trend lines today and I actually missed drawing this trend line to the upside from this lower high to this higher high. And you can see it would have been respected during that whole move to the upside. Also looking back, there's this trend line from this higher high right here to this higher high and this higher high. So when drawing trend lines, I like drawing equidistant trend lines. So I like price being trapped in between two parallel lines. So it doesn't happen every time, but ideally when drawing trend lines, make sure you have a bottom of the range and top of the range. So right now you can see for US 30, we do have a top and a bottom. This morning I'd sent out a update of the trend line. So before this huge candle closing, we had this was a what is it? This had been a lower high, but it wasn't completely established because if you look at the screenshot that I sent, it had been like a lower high, but it needed that current candle to close below that lower high for it to be established. Because in the settings, I think a lower high or a high low or whatever, a high low is established after 5 candles. So when this candle didn't close below this lower high and it pumped up and became a bullish candle, that's why that lower high disappeared. So for US 30 again, I would like to see a lower high being formed. So hopefully this will be that lower high. Yeah, so that's why that disappeared, because I'd drawn a trend line coming from this higher high to this lower high, and that's why I was expecting US 30 to keep trending to the downside. But for now, we just have this upper limit and lower limit. But for me, I'm still bearish on US 30. I'm gonna hold this sell right there. So it's currently at entry for anyone who wants to enter. So keep in mind today is Friday. So Fridays we normally expect either continuation or reversals. So I'm still expecting US30 to continue and hopefully hit TP within the day, or worst case Sunday or Monday, early Monday. The worst thing about this trade, or not the worst, one of the red flags about this trade is that it's Friday. So as much as US30 may drop, they might fake all of the buyers out. I'm sorry, all of the sellers out. So for me, I have a 200 pip TP and stop loss. So for me, that's safe enough to hold any manipulation. And if this trade hits stop loss, I'll just go ahead to the 1 hour time frame and look for an entry there afterwards, and that would have to be next week. But for now, this trade is valid based off of the reversal strategy. Only red flag to this trade is that it's Friday. Another confirmation for a sell, if we do get a closure below this trend line and retest and closure below, I do expect US30 to now start melting nicely to the downside. So if you want to wait for a nice confirmation for a sell, you can wait for US30 to close below 35,185 area and then retest and close below that area for a sell. Gold, you can see we are playing around this trend line to the downside. So from this high low to this lower low, and you can see price is acting as a magnet around this region. So in the Discord today, we were talking about how this is a falling wedge. I've never traded falling wedges before, but if you look at the falling wedge, what we would expect to see, and you can see this is exactly what we have on gold right here, right? Because it's this region right here. So what we would expect here is for gold to break out of this falling wedge, retest and close below, and then you'd look for an entry with a target above or target around where the wedge was created. So if that is to play out in this particular instance, what we would expect is for gold to close above, retest, and then pump above to either here or here. Now, if it comes to here, this would form the head and shoulder pattern that I was talking about yesterday, or around that region, and maybe for rejection back to the downside. So that's what's to consider for gold. But for right now, I want to see if this falling wedge pattern plays out. If it does, then it's just something to keep in mind in the future. Now, the other now on the opposite, right, gold, we do have a daily bearish high here, and you can see price is rejecting from this daily bearish high. And this is the area where that caused gold to consolidate for like 3 days last week, because gold was between 1960 and 1950. So here, this shows a sell, or would be aligning for a sell, because for me, a daily order block supersedes any other order block other than the monthly. Now, if I turn on the zones indicator, I would want to see sellers sitting here. But if I turn on the zones indicator, I really don't see a bunch of sellers around the daily bearish high. So the other thing that's pointing to a sell on gold is this 9 EMA and 200 EMA on the hourly. So we're about to possibly form a death cross on the hourly. If I look at everything else, let's see, for the breakout scanner, we already took the sell yesterday. So nothing is showing. Oh, the sell was right here. This is a sell we won yesterday. So the breakout scanner is telling us it gave us a sell entry about 5 hours ago or something. So it doesn't help us. Um, the crosses indicator is showing, I think it's showing a sell. Yeah. Now the crosses indicator is showing a sell, but right, using this strategies, the first 3 to 4 trades. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first 3 to 4 trades. So the fourth trade is the one that's currently running. So in any case, I would be compelled to take a sell right now on gold, because 1, 2, oh, I'm sorry. Actually, this is the fifth sell. 1, 2, 3, 4. Never mind. 69, 59. Yeah. So the crosses indicator doesn't really tell us much. It just tells us gold is in a downtrend. Also, yeah. So right now, I wouldn't be looking to take any gold trades until either we get closure below this trend line on the hourly, retests and closure below, then I would take a sell. But on the other hand, if we get a closure above this upper part of the wedge, retest and closure above, then I would look to take a buy. So until that happens, I'm going to stay out of gold until we get that proper confirmation. If we get this confirmation to the downside, this would be a nice sell because it would be in the motion of the death cross on the hourly time frame. But until then, I do see a lot of fake outs happening on gold in the meantime. For EU, I expect EU to continue to the downside. You can see on the hourly time frame, we had a death cross. Also, we do have this downtrend on EU. So I've seen this pattern play out on EU before, and I do expect EU to possibly proceed along this range right here. So if this is the case, and since EU is correlated with gold, gold may possibly shift to the downside. But anyway, but I've definitely seen this pattern before on EU, and I do expect EU to push to the downside. As much as we do have a 4-hour bullish high and low here, based off of experience, I do expect EU to push to the downside. Any questions regarding any of those three analyses? All right, yeah, so this, personally, this is the only trade that I am in. And again, US 30 is in no man's land. By no man's land, I mean it's in between two trend lines. So it's in between this upper limit and the bottom limit. Let's also see what channel we are in here. So it's in a descend, so it's ascending. So the trend is definitely to the upside. However, it's in the red part of the trend. So also, so this aligns with what I was talking about, closing below this trend line. So you can see we're in the sell zone of an uptrend. So another entry here, earlier entry would be break and retest of this sell zone. And then there, let's see if we can find it on the 5-minute time frame. But for me, I'm definitely seeing sells on US 30. Let's see for the 5-minute. Yeah, so even on the 5-minute, you can see we are in that sell zone. So a nice entry here, and let's see if I can catch that. What I would be looking for here is a 5-minute to close below here, retest this zone and close below. And at that point, possibly look for an entry to the downside. So I'm already in a sell for US 30, but I want to see if I can catch a sell here based off of this. So I'll just go ahead and turn this off for now. But if you already entered the sell with me on the reversal indicator, there's no reason to re-enter because you can see prices would ideally be entering where we are at, where our entry is at. So for this particular trade right here, I want to see if I can catch it with my COT Forex or KOT Forex challenge, even though it doesn't look like they are open today. Let me know if you guys have any questions regarding anything I've gone over. Let's see if I can re-log into this. I don't know, maybe they don't trade today. All right, let's see. I want to see if we can get this. This is the entry I'm looking for. And this would be a quick entry. I know I haven't done 50 pips TP and stop loss in a minute. Yeah, that thing is melting. If we don't get this, I'm just gonna hold off. So I did mention, right, that was the trade that I was in when the live session started, and it was based off of the reversal indicator. So if this doesn't come back up, that's fine with me since I'm already in the sell. And I know right now a sell signal is about to fire. But if I miss this, that's fine. I'm already in the trade based off of the reversal. I was just trying to see for anyone who hadn't gotten an earlier entry, if you could have found it with us. But yeah, so I'm just going to observe this screen. So this is the only trade that I'm in. And we'll see if it goes ahead and hits TP. I don't know if anybody entered this trade. I know we did talk about it in the live session yesterday. And also I did send it in the Discord. So if you're in the Discord yesterday, I did take a screenshot of my trade. So this is the trade that I currently have running. It's literally the same trade right here. So we'll just see if it hits TP. So there's nothing else for gold. You can see gold is still being supported by that trend line. So US 30 right now is the only thing making a move, and it is melting. So this is amazing. Did anybody enter this trade when the live session started? Because when the live session started, price was around the entry zone from yesterday. So this trade has right. So I lost on the 15-minute time frame, and I shouldn't have entered because it was. I actually entered on the based off of the 5, and it's because I was sleepy. We got stopped out of this trade on the 5-minute as well. So personally, for me, for this trade, I'm actually risking 2%. So if I win this trade, I'll just end up break even based off of the loss on the 15-minute time frame, or what I thought was the 15-minute entry yesterday, and also on the 5-minute entry that we hit stop loss 2 days ago. So that's the importance of just having at least a 1:1 risk to reward and knowing how you can recover a losing trade in future. So this trade halfway to TP. And as much as I would be break even for the week on US 30, remember yesterday I won a trade. We won a trade on gold. We won a trade on, or I won a trade on USD CHF. And also I think I didn't, so this won't count as an official trade because I didn't send it. I need to remember to be sending out some of these trades. So as much as we might win this trade, today will just be, so since I haven't identified any particular trade for today, we might just end up putting a 0 here. But let's see. Last week, I thought we had live sessions last week. Give me 1 second, because this might, because X should symbolize times we didn't take any trades. Give me 1 second. So this would have been 14th, 13th, and 12th. 14th, 13th. So 14th and 13th. So we definitely had live sessions, but we didn't take any trades. So this should be 0. Well, actually, maybe I should just do X's just to be, because 0 should signify days that we had a live session, but we didn't have any trades. So I see we had a live session on Friday and Thursday. Oh, okay. Okay. Let's go back to this. So what I would be looking for here, this 30-minute candle, if we do close below this, I want to see us close below this low right here. So close below 35,185. And if you remember the analysis I just did, we did have something at 35,185, which is what? Which is this, right? Which is this trend line. So you can see where US 30 is rejecting exactly, right, to that trend line. So we need, and this will be the hourly candle, we need in the next 10 minutes for this hourly candle to close below. Now, if you haven't entered, or if you didn't enter this trade with us at the top, the significance of this is that we want this hourly candle to close below this trend line right here. And then we would want the next hourly candle to retest this trend line and close below. So that would be another entry right here, another confirmation for an entry if we do get that around there. The other thing I'm looking at for US 30 is if we go on the crosses indicator, I'm looking for an entry for a sell on the 15-minute, and this hasn't happened for like is it 2 weeks or maybe a week? So the last time we had let me turn on both buys and sells. The last time we had a successful death cross. So this again was a fake out there, fake out here. The last time we had a successful death cross was here, was Wednesday, July 5th, and that was 2 weeks ago. So this is why I've been waiting for this sell right here based off of the crosses indicator. And if we do get that, that's going to be taken automatically by the challenge I have running that's taking the 15-minute golden, 15-minute and hourly golden and death crosses. So this is also why I'm anticipating US 30. When it does form that cross and hopefully it goes in my favor, US 30 will melt for the next few weeks or the next month or so. So if for anyone who missed that entry, so this is what we are waiting for. We were waiting for this candle to close below the sell zone, for a candle to retest and close below. Unfortunately, this candle did not retest and close below. So I wouldn't be, unless you have a wide stop loss, I wouldn't be looking to sell here just yet, because keep in mind what we are doing right now. We are retesting this trend line. So it's not a good idea to enter a sell right now if you didn't enter when the live session started, when price was somewhere around there. Because this, I do anticipate possibly having a retracement at some point. And if you have a steep stop loss, you might get stopped out or faked out before the market moves back down. Because I do anticipate US 30 might retrace all the way to this zone right here, to 35 to 65. So that's definitely a possibility. So if you want to enter a sell, make sure your stop loss is above the previous high. So it is above 35,330. So that would be a 130 pip move. But for those of us who either entered this sell yesterday, or for those of you who entered it when the live session started, just hold on to this trade. And so again, today is a day where you guys can ask questions, can talk about what you've been struggling with, can talk about anything that has been working for you guys lately, and we can go over that and share it with everybody else. So remember, we don't want to, I prefer not to enter trades on Fridays. So which is why I normally tell you guys on Thursday, between beginning of New York and mid New York, look for a trade that you can ride through Thursday and Friday. So this was that trade for us yesterday. I think I'd mentioned two trades. There was a trade on US 30, reversal on US 30, and I think, did I mention something about gold? I forget. I mentioned two trades, two possible trades. Maybe it was EU. No. I forget what the other trade was. I think the other trade was possibly gold, but so we have 5 more minutes. So what we want to see, we want to see either closure below this high low or closure below this trend line. I would prefer closure below this trend line. That would be much better for a spike to the downside. But closure below this high low also would also be good, but I just don't want this hourly candle to close above this trend line, because that might mean we might have to wait for the next 2 or 3 hours before our trade hits full TP. So let's just see how that will close. Yeah. So EU as well. EU is respecting all these trend lines. If we do break this trend line, the support now will be on this trend line. I just need this position to shoot into TP, and that will be a good way to end the week. So we have about 3 minutes before this 30-minute candle closes, and also before we get another hourly candle. Okay. So one other thing I wanted to mention is no, that's when I was looking falling wedge. So as you guys get funded, and I know I've mentioned this before, whether you're funded with a 100K account. So let's assume you get funded with a 100K account, and you can divide the numbers, based off of what I'll give. So let's assume, and that's just as we are waiting for that trade for the US 30 to see if US 30 is going to close below there. So I always, tell people, if you get funded and let's assume you have 100K, for the first 6 months, aim to make half of what you make at your current job. So let's say you're bi-weekly, let's say you get paid twice a month, right? And let's say, just for argument's sake, your paycheck is $2,000 every 2 weeks. So this means that every month you make 4,000, right? And you get funded with 100K, and you can divide this based off of whether it's a 50K or 10K or whatnot. So for the first 6 months, if you have 100K, aim to make half of this every month. So aim to make $2,000 every month. Now, with MFF and FTMO, I think the profit splits are what? 80% of what you make. So I guess make what? Aim to make, and I normally tell you guys I'm terrible at math, but I'm thinking, nope. What is 80%? How do you, let me see. 2,000 times, I know I'm messing up somewhere. Let me see, maybe it's this.
80% of what?
What is 80? So for you to get paid out $2,000, how much would you have to make?
Oh,
I'm thinking like 2,800 maybe.
25. Let me see. Hold on.
Yeah, for me, I only know how to hit TP and stop loss. Like, I used to be terrible at math growing up, so don't mind me. It has to be somewhere here. I'm close, so it has to be around 2,600. No, 2,600 times. Okay, yeah, let's
Like
call it
26.
2,500. So if you're funded with 100K, aim to make 26, or let's just call it 2,500. Make 2,500 consistently for the first 6 months. Don't try to make anything more, because let me tell you, if you don't already make 10,000 a month, don't try to make, at your job, don't try to make 10,000 a month trading. you've survived, or I'm hoping you've been surviving with 4,000 a month for the last however long you've gotten paid out. So don't be in a hurry to make 10,000 a month. Not that you can't make that, but the idea here is that you want to make that consistently over an amount of time. Now, here's the thing I realized with trading. 6 months in trading might seem like a long time, but you might be aiming to make 10,000 a month for 6 months, and then maybe let's say you get a payout one time for 10,000 a month, and then the next few months or the next year or the next 2 years you struggle to even get funded again with the 10K. So ideally you end up break even for the next 2 years, but then you've lost 2 years which you could have learned or just learned to be consistent. So my strategy is always for your first 100K or for your first payout. So scale it, do the math, and whether it's a 10K, whether it's a 20K, but assume you get funded 100K, aim to make 2,500 a month consistently. So, and that's assuming you get paid out like, oh, your current job, you make 4,000 a month. If you make 6,000 a month, the same thing. Aim to make half of the 6,000. If maybe you get paid 10,000 a month at your job, aim to make 5,000 a month. Now, if you can literally do that consistently for 6 months without blowing your account, and look at US 30. So US 30, we closed above that high low, but you can see we still close below this 9 EMA. So the trade is still valid, but for that nice confirmation, we want an hourly candle to close below this trend line down here, which is why I was saying this was for anybody looking for sells, this wasn't a good area to sell. But you can also see we just formed a death cross on the 5 minutes. So remember, if you're trading a death cross, the ideal or actually not a death cross. If you're trading any of my strategies, the ideal entry is always to wait for the retest of the 9 EMA. So if you're still looking for sells, the ideal sell would be around this zone, right? But for me, since I'm already in this sell, I'm gonna hold off on entering any more sells. But anyway, going back to this, aim to make consistently for 6 months what you make. Forget about if other people are making 5,000. Forget about if other people are making 3,000 a day. Remember, right? As much as I may make 10,000 a day, right? That's my money. That's somebody's money. So what you should think about, how do I become consistent after being funded? Now, get your first funded account. Don't try to make too much. Use that half of what you make a month as a strategy to maintain your account, and then go for another challenge. Now, for this first funded account, if you can consistently get payouts for 6 months, you're doing much better than like 80% of people who get funded, because a lot of people who get funded, they don't even make it to the second payout, leave alone the first. So if you can literally do like 6 back-to-back payout months, that's amazing. Now, once you do that, and you're comfortable, what will happen during those 6 months? You'll have like a lot of growth and a lot of discipline that will account for like 2 years of the average trader. So just for those 6 months of being disciplined and consistent, for a lot of people that just don't have a lot of discipline, that try to make 10,000 payouts, $20,000 payouts, and they're not yet there as a trader, they will take like 5 years to get to where you've been or to where you've gotten just by taking consistent average payouts in 6 months. Now, after those 6 months, if you have consistently made half of what you would make at your job, guess what? Do the same thing, but now aim to make exactly what you make every month at your current job. So if you make 4,000 a month, 5,000 a month, now remember, you're not going to change anything. You're just going to change, right, the lot sizing and all of that. So everything, right, the strategies will remain the same. The only thing you would change is maybe your risk or the lot sizing or whatnot, and then aim to make what you make currently at your job for the next 6 months. So what will happen if you're able to accomplish that, and let's assume nobody has 100% win rate, you're not going to make consistently for 6 months. Sometimes you're going to make more than you make, other months you're going to make less than you make. So let's assume during that 1 year time frame, 8 out of the 12 months, you've consistently made about 70% of your paycheck, then that's why you know you're getting there as a trader. Because for me, I think the goal of trading is to eventually replace your job, or ideally make as much money as you make at your job, so that even though, God forbid, your company shuts down or whatnot, you're able to have a nice income level that can sustain you and just also give you freedom of living the life that you want. So for me, that's the advice I can give you guys. Just focus on the first trading, the first funded account, and do not try to make a lot of money. Just use your salary as your target, because right, if you've been surviving on $1,000 a month, there's nothing that $5,000 a month is going to change for you, right? In any case, it's going to just help, it's going to lead you to develop bad trading habits. So just use that as a helper to learn how to be consistent and disciplined. And then guess what, go ahead and stack other funded accounts, because if you can literally be consistent for 6 months, and right now the major prop firms took off the time limits, hey, you can accumulate like 7-figure funding over the next 1 year. So just, sacrifice the next year of your life and say, hey, for me, my target for 2024, or by April or by July of next year, is to have $1 million worth of funding, and then just do a blueprint of that. So already you don't have time, you have time on your hands, on your side right now, because major prop firms have taken out the time limit of your challenges. So you literally have no excuse. So, try to stay away from over leveraging, try to stay away from revenge trading. Only stick to those, what are they called? Valid strategies. And let me show you guys this. Let me show you guys this challenge that I'm taking, just to give you guys an idea of it. Okay, let me take a screenshot of this. This one, and trading history. One second. Trading days. This is what I was looking for right there. Okay, perfect. I'll just take a screenshot of this real quick. Come here. Stop. All right, so this is the account. So I did tell you guys that I have a challenge that is only taking the the 15-minute, what is it called? The 15-minute golden and death crosses, and also the 1-hour golden and death crosses. So based off of the back testing, and you guys can see that in the Discord, this strategy, just by taking, and I forget, I don't know if he's in the session today, just by taking those golden and death crosses, right? They don't happen every time during the month. So you probably get like 9 or so trades during the month. If you're lucky enough, the first 3 or 4 trades hit TP, you'd pass a challenge just by using just by four trades. So I started this challenge on the 13th, ideally because I had seen we had a death cross that was forming. But you can see here, I had 2 trades. I took 2 trades that day, right? So I took 2 trades. Now those 2 trades was a death cross. And then unfortunately that day, and I've shown you guys on the charts, unfortunately that day the price was, what is it called? Price was consolidating. So I had a death cross that hit stop loss, but then I also had a golden cross that hit full TP. So what that happened, and you can see I'm doing 10 lots, I'm doing 200 pips TP and stop loss, and this is only on US 30, and I'm doing 10 lots each, so I'm risking 2% per trade. So during this day here, I ended up ideally at break evens, but due to slippage, the buy due to slippage didn't hit like exactly the loss that I took. But anyway, I just ended up losing like $35. And then guess what? I waited and waited. So 15th, no trade. 16th, no trade. This day 7, what happened here was, this was Monday actually. So on Monday, this should have ended up also at break even. So ideally also on Monday should have been 2 trades. But on Monday, my Telegram copier or whatever froze. So there was a death cross on US 30 on Monday, but there was also a golden cross. But my copier only took the death cross, but didn't take the golden cross. So that's why I had a $2,000 loss that day. Ideally, what is it, a 2% loss on the 100K. The other 6 or so trades is because when I came back to the charts, I was just doing a bunch of testing to see why I didn't hit TP. And you can see the 0.6. So I was just using 0.1 trades to test out both buys and sells. So you can see the first trade was a 10 lot, and then the next 6 trades ideally was me testing why the buy wasn't taken. But ideally, if this day played out the same way this day played out, which ideally it did, and my copier was behaving as it should, or for the 17th, I should have only had 2 trades, 20 lots, and then break even for the day. And right now, my account should still be at 99,965. Now, for these other trading days, I've only just been doing 0.01 lots just to cover the minimum trading days. But you can see literally from the 13th till the 21st, which is ideally 1 week, I've only taken, I would consider it 3 major trades have been taken on my account. I'm only down at 2%. Ideally, I shouldn't be down anywhere. But this is the key for this, because I'm positive about this crosses strategy. For me, for this account, I just bought it and then I said, I'm not going to interfere with this trade. I'm not going to take a breakout trade. I'm not going to take a reversal trade with this account. I'm not going to take any other trade. This trade is literally just going to, this account is either going to be passed or going to be filled based off of the crosses signals from the 15-minute and the 1-hour time frame. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, you can literally sacrifice, put aside whether it's $500, $100, and say, with this account, I'm only going to trade this one strategy. I'm not going to interfere with it. As much as I can find a strategy or an entry that can pass this account with the breakout scanner, this account is only for that strategy. So hopefully that makes sense. So just find a strategy that works. Don't interfere with it, and just observe how it works. The reason I chose to do this is because in the past, I've literally blown countless accounts. So I've blown, and I've talked to you guys about it, probably overall maybe blown over 40 grand, both with challenges and my personal funds. And the reason for that is because I was mixing strategies. So I would have one account and then I would FOMO, I would FOGI, I would maybe try somebody else's signals. I would maybe try this and this. But if literally I just focused on one strategy, that would have saved me a bunch of accounts. Because with this reversal strategy, if let's say this account gets blown and it looks like it might take 3 months or maybe 1.5 months, if everything just goes south, that would save me. So what is this? 100K account, I spent what, $500, $450. So if for this account to get blown just by using this strategy is going to take me 1.5 months. In the past, what I used to do, I used to buy a challenge and maybe FOMO into a buy. So you see, so let's say here, let's say I would have taken a sell here, and then I would have over leveraged and maybe done what? Used 500 pips TP, 500 pips stop loss. And let's even assume I never used to use, because there are days I never used to use TPs and stop loss. So in this trade, maybe I would have entered with a 50 lot, and then I would have held onto this trade. Now, at this point, I would be so much down in drawdown, like about 4% down in drawdown. And then guess what happens at the end of the day? I end up blowing that account. So that's 500 that's being lost in one day. Okay, guess what happens? On Sunday, I start another challenge. I do the same thing without changing anything. And what happened, there were times when I was literally paying for 300K challenges in 1 week. So I would end up losing like $1,500 in 1 week, because literally I would blow an account and then say, okay, let me try again this time. And then guess what? I would end up losing and losing. But if for this new strategy, like for this crosses strategy that I'm doing, like if everything turns out terribly and every trade hits stop loss, or the next 8 trades hit stop loss, it would take me about 1.5 months or 2 months. So that's just literally $500 in 2 months. And guess what? The next month I would do the same thing, start the new strategy, because if we go over here and we go over the back testing that Zdeněk did, you can see, what is this? In the month of US, this is January, right? So in January, you would have come, ideally, I think you'd have ended up losing this account overall. Like if you started when you started cross-checking. And keep in mind, his back testing assumes you're taking every buy and every sell. So normally I say, right, avoid trading between 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is why I'm also having like time filters being included in our indicators. So just keep in mind for this back testing results that Zdeněk and Desire have done, it's ideally taking every signal. And we both know that, or we all know that that's not, you know, our overall strategy. But you can see, let's assume on January, you took a challenge. So this, you would have ended up failing this challenge, because I do see it came around 12%. So you would have ended up failing that challenge. Okay. Then you end up in February. So that's minus 500 there. February right here, and this is only on the, he's using 3% risk. I'm using 2% risk. This is only the 1 hour time frame. Okay. On March, your account could have survived right here, right? You could have started high up, came back down to about minus 9,000, came to about minus 8,000. But guess what? You could have ended up the month of March just 3% down. Okay, so your account could have survived. Then the month of, that was February, I'm sorry. The month of March, you would have had a 9% return. So let's imagine you're still, so you blew the account for January. February, you started another account, you are down 3% on February. On March, you would have been up 9%. So considering you'd have been down 3%, overall by the end of March, you'd have been up 6%. So almost completing phase 1. April, you're up 5.2%. So you only needed what, 2% to be done with your phase 1. Guess what? By April, you're done with phase 1 of your account. Then you start phase 2, April. In May, you start phase 2. Unfortunately, in May, doesn't look like you would have. And this is considered, this is only the 1 hour time frame. This is not the 15-minute time frame. So May, let's assume you would have blown your phase 2 if you're only trading the 1 hour time frames. June, you start another challenge. You're done with phase 1 only in June itself. So right now you would have been in July, and I know he hasn't done the back testing for July, but you can see how much money you can save just by sticking to one strategy and letting it play out. So US 30, so going back to what we have today, US 30 is coming back up, and this was expected. So keep in mind, so US 30 is back to no man's land, and you can see how it's respecting this trend lines right here. So for me, for my trade, just back in drawdown, again, nowadays I either hold a trade to TP or to stop loss. So right now, and we knew this was a probability because, again, this is Friday. Friday, we do expect a lot of manipulation before the actual move happens. So it's always good to be comfortable with that risk and know where that can head to. So for US 30, unfortunately, other than knowing we're in a sell zones, let me turn off the trend lines right here. Trend is here. So other than knowing that we're in sell zones, unfortunately, we don't have any order blocks anywhere around here. We just have sellers. We have a previous daily high all the way up there. So just keep in mind, they can manipulate US 30 to the upside before bringing in any drop. But you do see we do have a lot of sell pressure that was occasioned by that last 1 hour trend. I'm sorry, 1 hour candle. Now gold, what did gold just do? So gold closed below that trend line. So if we zoom in right here, gold closed below that trend line. So for any continuations for this pattern to continue, this pattern that I marked up here, what we would want to see is gold closing below this trend line on the hourly, because this would be a break and retest, and then a sell entry would be here, would be on the closure of that candle. So that's how you can trade gold. And a nice confluence, a big reason why I like this confluence, look at this. We have this daily bearish high right here. And you can see price is literally rejecting from this daily bearish high. So I do see gold continuing to melt to the downside. EU, as I mentioned, is continuing to melt to the downside. US 30 just has a mind of its own today, and for the last 2 days. So, but I do, when this thing does drop, and personally, I do, for some reason, I wanted to either keep being in this region or keep pushing up slightly higher. The reason for that is I don't want a heavy drop that breaks the 200 DMA just yet. What I want to happen is I want this 200 DMA, which is why I'm actually not feeling too bad for this move to the upside. I want this 200 DMA to come closer to the 9 EMA, such that when that death cross happens, it will happen with so much vigor, and then we'll have a nice steady consistent flow to the downside. So for me, overall, as much as I'm in this US 30 sell, I'm comfortable for this trade to keep consolidating and possibly go into a bit of drawdown, because the bigger move that I'm eyeing is this one right here. Is this death cross, is the 9 EMA crossing the 200 DMA to the downside on the 15-minute time frame. And also maybe, I know we did trade the golden cross on the hourly the last time this happened. So if you guys remember, we did make profit with this trade right here, this buy signal on the hourly time frame. So yeah, so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the death cross on US 30 on the 15-minute time frame and on the hourly time frame. And yeah, so hopefully we get that either today or possibly we are going to get it on Sunday or Monday. Any questions from anyone? All right, so I hope everything that I've talked about today makes sense. Mhm.
Yeah, just a quick question. I remember, I don't know if it was last week where you took a trade. I think it was based on the reversal strategy on US 30.
Mhm.
And like you put, I don't know, it was like 400 pips, something like that.
Yes, yeah, 500.
500 pips.
Yes.
So yeah, so at that time, what made you put a such large SL?
Okay, let me see if I can find that. So the reason, and I've done that 2 times, and one of them was when I was on vacation. So the first one was here. So the first reason is, I'm trying to favorite this thing is, let me see, add this here. Now, the first one, I remember this was because we had this head and shoulder pattern right here. So when I saw this, so head and shoulder, also the reason I like trend lines like this is we were in a major downtrend for US 30 right here, right? So you can see this major downtrend. So one green flag. So if I was expecting a reversal for US 30 here, normally if you draw trend lines, for you to consider any buy on US 30, you would need US 30 to break away from this trend line right here. So when this happened, I saw, okay, we are possibly turning to a bullish zone right here, or we are the momentum is possibly turning to become bullish. Okay, then I did see a left shoulder. So for me, when do I identify a head and shoulder or inverse head and shoulder? It's after the head has been formed. So I couldn't foresee inverse head and shoulder at this point, because at this point only the left shoulder had been created, and there was no way for me to know that there was going to be a head down here. So after the head was formed, and then after price broke out of this region, I knew that, okay, hey, this is what do I see here? I see a left shoulder, possible left shoulder, possible head. And then knowing that we are breaking out, I did see, or I did anticipate a possible right shoulder. So knowing that, what I looked at is, okay, how far can US 30 go to the downside. So I definitely knew when we were here, price was moving up. Price was gonna go up. I had like a 90% probability that price was gonna go up, but I knew US 30 was also in a downtrend or had been in a downtrend, and US 30 could have easily come back to this downtrend. So at that point, what I told myself, okay, if you have like a 90%, 80% probability of entering, and of course, I don't remember the actual place that I entered this trade, but I also saw this golden cross coming in. And this was on the hourly way back. I don't think it's the one we took, but it, it might have been one of the ones I considered. So at this point, I asked myself, if you know that US 30 is gonna go up in the next week or so, but you don't want to get faked out, how big of a stop loss do you need? So that's when I came. At that point, I saw, okay, I want my stop loss to be ideally below this head. If worst comes to the worst and this inverse head and shoulder doesn't form. So at that point, and I'm just drawing random numbers here, but because I don't know the actual entry that I took. So at that point, I took it, and I think it was also a Friday, because the last two 500 pip moves I've entered was during Fridays. So A, it's Friday, you expect manipulation on a Friday. B, US 30 can easily come back down to this selling channel. So at that point, I came in here, and again, I don't want to say that's the actual place that I took it, but just as an example. So I come in here and do 500 pips TP, 500 pips stop loss. So that's my reasoning behind that. So the reasoning would be, A, what time of the week is it? So if it's Friday like today, and for me, like for today, I'm certain with like a 80 to 90% probability, like in the future or in the next week or so, US 30 will dump. So knowing that so if I were to, like for example, if I were to enter another sell today, and let's just assume I'm entering a sell here. Let's just assume, keep in mind, we're not entering a sell on US 30, but let's assume based on everything that I know right now, US 30, I have a 80% probability that US 30 will dump in the next week. Now, let's assume I don't want to wait for Sunday. Okay, I don't want to wait for Sunday. I don't want to wait for Monday. I want to be in the trade today. So at that point, I'll come in here. I would want my stop loss to be definitely above this higher high. I would want my stop loss to be somewhere above this trend line. And then guess what? And then I ask myself, am I comfortable holding this trade for a week? If that's fine, guess what? I'll enter that trade with a 500 pip TP, 500 pip stop loss. Now, the other thing I noticed with the 500 pip TP and stop loss, as much as it might hit, maybe a 500 pip TP and stop loss is not necessary. So going forward with the trades that I used to take with a 500 pip TP and stop loss, I'll be using a 300 pip TP and stop loss, because you can easily get faked out of a 200 pip move like the one we have, but for US 30 to move 200 pips, that is a huge, you would have to be so wrong, or it's just one of those days that your 10% losing rate comes in. Like us, right? The reversal indicator, I lost on the 5-minute, I lost on the 15-minute. So this is to mean I lost a consistent 400 pip move on US 30 because I lost a 200 pip first on the 5-minute reversal, and then I lost another 200 pip move on the 15-minute reversal. So for me to lose this trade on the 30-minute, it literally needs to mean that I've lost 600 pips on US 30. And I guess if that happens, it just wasn't my day. It's just one of those days that I lose. So for you to take either a 500 pip move, or for me going forward, the 500 pip move will be 300 pips, you need to consider time of the week. So if it's Friday, again, that's a red flag. So you want to increase your stop loss a bit higher. If you have some major news happening soon, you also need to include that. But your variable should always be, what is the probability or where do you see an asset going? So if for you, you expect, let's assume gold, you expect gold to drop in the next week, ask yourself, what day of the week is it today? Okay, it's Friday. So that's one red flag. So if I normally take 100 pips stop loss and TP on gold, and I know gold over the next week is going to drop, today is Friday, which is a red flag, I'm probably not going to do my usual 100 pip TP and stop loss. So maybe if for you, you're expecting a sell on gold over the next week and you want to be in the trade today and it's Friday, maybe do 150 pip move, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So for me, even nowadays, the major thing is always like, before I enter this trade, what is my probability? What is the probability of this trade hitting? So if I have like a 40% probability for a trade hitting, I'm not going to take that trade. So that's why nowadays I have to have like a 80, or let me say at least 70% probability that a trade will hit. So that's why nowadays I look for trades on the breakout scanner, on the crosses indicator, and that's it.
On the US 30, you said if I'm gonna enter, wait for it to come back up to the trend line or wait for the death cross, right?
Yes, wait for the death cross on the 15-minute, or if you want to use the hourly time frame. So you see how this trend line has been rejected, exactly that. Wait for closure below. So wait for an hourly closure below. And since today is Friday, if this does happen, US 30 might not dip heavily before giving us a nice retest. So what you would be looking for is hourly closure below this trend line, hourly retest and closure below this trend line, and then you enter. However, if you want to, for those of you who are not in this trade with us, or who hadn't entered with us, for me, I still consider this a nice entry point. The one other reason I consider it a nice entry point, so I've gone over this a couple of times, right? So for me, what I like seeing, as much as I'm in a trade and let's say I'm in drawdown, so let's say, so this trade I entered based off of the reversal indicators, right? So based off of this sell. So I want to see if I'm going to be in drawdown or if price is going to consolidate, I want to see sells being fired around my entry point. So you can see here, and this is on the 30-minute time frame, we had a sell that was fired in and around where we entered at. So for me, this trade still has like a 80% probability to hit. So you can either enter now with us, or for the nice waiting, for the nice confluence is just the break and retest of this trend line on the hourly time frame. And now what I would expect here, and I know this is on the hourly time frame, and it might take
You
the
don't think it
next.
would go to the other trend line, the one above?
So it might, but that's the game of probability, right? So here
Yeah.
what I would draw is, so this is a hanging trend line. So this is not a static trend line. Now, to answer your question, right, it doesn't always have to happen, because look at what happened here. When US 30 came here to this top, the top of this trend line, it could have easily gone back this way, but it didn't. So it's all a game of probability. So, right, ask yourself, what's the probability that US 30 will go to this trend line? Is this okay? So I know this is a static trend line. So ask yourself, based off of your analysis, what's the probability that US 30 will come here? Now, if you find that the probability for this is higher than the probability for this, then I would say stick to that analysis, if that makes sense.
All right.
But I would wait for, so you see how I've drawn this static trend line. So I'm sorry, hanging trend line. I call it a hanging trend line because it's only originating from a point of structure. This is not established. So you guys remember how we used to trade when I first started live streaming. So what for me, I would expect in future this to be a lower high. So if this is to be a lower high in future, I don't want to see price closing above this trend line. But if price closes above this trend line, this hanging trend line, I will go ahead and delete this hanging trend line. So those are the only trend lines I delete. The only trend lines I delete are hanging trend lines, because a hanging trend line is a trend line that only has one point of structure. A static trend line, which is what I use, which is what all of these other trend lines are, static trend line should always connect one point of structure to another point of structure. Anything that only has one point of structure is a hanging trend line. So for me here, since I expect this in future to be a static trend line, I don't want to see this high or this point broken by US 30 on the hourly time frame. But for us to know if this is going to be a lower high, we have to wait for 5 candles based off of the settings in the indicator. Any last questions? I know gold is pumping back up. So this is why you always want to wait for that break and retest. Always wait for that break and retest, especially if you don't have any confluences. So if this happens, this means that, hey, maybe, I don't know if Marcus is in here, maybe this falling wedge pattern might play out. But always wait for that break and retest. As much as we have a death cross forming on the hourly time frame, The death cross may be superseded by this falling wedge. I don't know. I've never traded a falling wedge before. So that's why for me today, this is just a learning experience for me on gold to see what happens here. Any other questions?
Yeah, but something.
Mhm.
Yeah, so what's it called? When we had the reversal on last Wednesday before CPI, I think at
Mhm.
1938.
Mhm.
Did you get a reversal at 1938 for gold or 1938?
So last week on gold, yes, we did, because I traded, I think Livy and we caught the reversal sell or something, or maybe I
Yeah.
sent it. Yeah, we did, if I'm not wrong.
How many pips did you catch on that trade?
For me, gold, I do 100 pips. That's all I do.
Yeah, and then the next day CPI I think took it up, isn't it?
I don't know. I don't remember. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Mm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe I think maybe just I know Livy, we were looking at it. I don't know, but I was in heavy sales for gold last week, so I don't. Yeah, we took a sell on gold. I don't know. Maybe it was in the on the live session, but we did take a reversal. Yeah, it was because we caught the buy and then we
Yeah.
caught the reversal. Yeah, but for me, I just do 100 pips on gold. I don't care whether it goes 300 or 200.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions? I don't know if anybody caught anything on gold, but to be honest, for me, I want to see if you ask me, I want to see the buy on gold. I will, but for some reason, I just want this falling wedge pattern to play out because I've never seen it. I've never traded such a pattern before. But anyway, and again, right, this is why I always circle when price is in this zones. You know, this is why I'm not even trading gold, because I don't like trading when any instrument is on a trend line, because what that will do, they will literally fake everybody out. They will fake out both buyers and both sellers. So this is why you always want to wait for that break and retest. Anything else? Any questions from anyone before we call it a week? Okay, perfect. And there goes gold spiking all the way up. Yeah. So if nobody has any questions, I will catch you guys next week for another good week. So hopefully you guys have learned a lot. And you can always ask questions in the Discord if something else comes up. If you choose to trade today, make sure you know the risk and make sure to at least widen your stop loss for today because it's Friday. And other than that, I will catch you guys next week. All right, guys. Bye.